Yeah. Well, beautiful. Welcome back to She's Beyond Elevated with me, Dr. Kimberly Dunlap. And this is a space where we challenge really the old definitions of success and step boldly into alignment, purpose, and power. And today's episode, I am extremely excited about. Today's episode is for the woman who is really successful on paper, but restless in spirit. The woman who has all the credentialing, the title, the steady income, yet they still feel quite stagnant
Mhm.
in their purpose every day. They feel trapped within the
Mhm.
four walls and the confines of what they call their life. And I am so very excited to be speaking with not only a pioneer in this space, but also a woman walking in her purpose as well. So, this episode is actually entitled From Corporate to Called. When you know that there's more. And before I bring her on, I just want to tell you that it has been an absolute pleasure speaking to her, hearing her message, and actually listening to her podcast as well. So I don't think I told her that I'm springing that on her right now, that I am actually a listener of her podcast. So trust me, you are in for a treat. So this one is really going to hit home. So beautiful. I am joined today by Joy Rowland. Okay. She's the host of Next Level Woman, Women, excuse me, podcast. And Joy's mission is powerful and very clear. She helps women elevate their income, doing what they love and actually enjoy. So she knows firsthand what it looks like to transition from the safety and the confines of corporate, uh, steady paycheck, which is what she and I talked about, earlier, and being familiar with the space that you're in, into stepping into her true alignment, making that alignment profitable, but most importantly, fulfilling. So today we're going to actually just pull back the curtains on what it really takes to honor the call.
Mhm.
We all know that we have a calling, but it takes bravery sometimes to step up and answer that call, especially in trying not to lose yourself and also not to get trapped into the financial implications of this call. So, Joy, welcome to She's Beyond Elevated.
Oh my goodness. I am holding myself back not to tear up from all the amazing things you just said about me and my work. I just want you to know that I honor you and I truly appreciate this platform you've invited me to today. And I am so honored and I cannot wait to inspire people and just shine the light on what they already have. Because I know that each and every one of us, we have that thing, right? That keeps pulling on our hearts. And so my goal is to help people see what they already have inside of them.
Yes, great, great, great. And that is one of the things that we truly connected with. It was funny initially, just a little behind the curtains. We came on and we did an informal kind of chat, and my spirit aligned with yours so much. And I was like, I can't wait to get her on. And then the holidays happened and all of the things. So yes, so I'm so super excited to actually have you here, and all of those things. I do not take as robbery to say those things. It was really really has really been a pleasure talking to you. So Joy, so many women listening are successful on paper, right? But they are unfulfilled. So they've checked all of the boxes, all of the credentialing, all of the things that we were told is the dream for you to be successful in I use air quotes. Everyone knows I use air quotes, which means that yeah, it may not actually be that, but that's what we were told. So take us back to the moment when you realize like the success you obtained in corporate wasn't a full story for you.
Oh my gosh. Like, I think this is where everyone, all of us, we have that gut instinct. We know how we feel. And for me, my feeling is my guiding light. So I started to feel, just like you described, I felt like there was something more. I felt like I was almost like trapped in a cage, almost like I couldn't breathe. That was how my day-to-day life was. And it started with asking questions. Why am I feeling the way I feel? And sadly, I went into depression that became clinical depression. That's how terrible mine was, right? And so I just kept asking, what's that thing? Like, why don't I feel happy? Why don't I feel successful, even though I'm making this insane amount of money? And so that trying to answer those questions has led me to where I am today. And like very clearly, it started after COVID, right? So during COVID, I had this amazing job. We're working from home, everything was fine. I had my daughter in 2019, so just before COVID. And after COVID, we were asked to come back into the office. And it just didn't sit right that I'm going to leave this amazing human being that God has blessed me with. I'm going to leave her home and then commute to work. And so I said, God, I need something that will fulfill me, make me happy as a woman, make me fulfilled. And so I started to search. And then my paths crossed with the life coach school, Brooke Castillo. I went through the life coach school, got certified as a coach, and my journey has just evolved. And right now, I'm making more than I made in my corporate job. And I feel like that should be criminal. How can you work a job you love and be highly paid? You know? So it's just been a beautiful journey. And now my mission is to help women feel the way I feel.
Well, listen, it should be criminal. And if that be the case, then I am okay with being arrested because that is the goal. The goal is to do what you love every
Mhm.
single day. And you've always heard the cliche that if you do what you love, you never work another day in your life. And so I get to sit here, I get to interview cool people. I get to help women that look like me get over humps and get to the next level. And I don't even think of that as work because I'm excited to do it. I think I have more hesitation in the morning getting up to work out than I ever do to get up to work, you know? So that yeah, it should be criminal, but hey, we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it. So I know you said that it was slightly after you had your daughter back in 2019 prior to COVID. How long did you try to ignore the feelings that you had before you finally just had to listen? I know were talking about your depression. So, like, how long had that been building before you just said, like, hey, I have to do this or else?
Yes, it's been building for so many years to tell you. So, my journey, I left my home country, Nigeria, when I was 25, moved to the UK, started in the UK, stayed in the UK for 10 years, did some corporate work with big banks in the UK. But I have always felt that nudge for more. So I ignored it for so long, right? I felt like, oh, but this is more secure. I have money coming in every month. So I tried my best to suppress that desire for stepping out solo, right? To do my own thing. So that nudge has been there for so long, and I'm just so grateful that the nudge didn't disappear, that it was there constantly, and I finally hit the voice and took the brave step, and I'm just so grateful that God was with me, and He's always been with me through all of it all.
Great. Yes, yes, yes. Because I mean, realistically, leaving what looks stable is terrifying. Like that call and that nudge, when you're in corporate, which is something that I can relate to. When you're in corporate, you know that every 2 weeks or every week or once monthly, however they pay you, that as long as you showed up, you did this thing, that you were going to have money there. So that's very terrifying to walk away from. So especially when you're considering a pivot in your life, your career, the things that you want to do, your aspirations, that becomes like a holding block for you. What fears came up for you, outside of the ones that we've talked about, when it came time for you to transition and make that pivot?
Oh gosh, apart from the fear of will I make money, the key one for me was will this succeed? Is it possible that I can make money to sustain my lifestyle? And another fear was fear of rejection, fear of failing. I felt like if I came out boldly and started showing up as a business owner, then that will put pressure on me on about what people will say about me, like if I don't succeed. So I was so afraid to tell everyone I'm going full time into my business. So I had that fear of will this succeed? And the fear of who am I to call myself a business owner, right?
Wow.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was the fear. It was like, how dare you think you can? Because
who are
here's the
you?
thing, there's a huge shift. There's a huge shift because, like you said, we show up day to day in our 9 to 5, and then we get paid.
Right.
When it is that we are responsible for doing all the actions, getting the sale, servicing the client, that's huge. Right? See, it's very huge, especially for I want to say our toddler brain, the part of our brain that wants to keep us safe, right? So that was a big deal for me, and I had to coach myself every single day, because the fear was coming up every single day, and it was affecting how I would show up in confidence. Because you and I know that is the confidence in your capability to get people results that actually sells them on hiring you as their coach or
Exactly.
as their consultant. So
Right.
I had to coach myself every single day to say, no, I can do this. Let's go. So I don't want to pin this to listeners and make them think this is going to be a ride in the park. It's possible.
Never.
Right? So, but mine wasn't a ride in the park, right? So
Yes.
it's been an evolving journey for me.
I almost need Kleenex because yes, it is, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. I I tell you, especially when you're coming from corporate. When you're coming from corporate, because you rely on showing up, doing the thing, getting a paycheck. And that's all you have to do. You show up, you do the thing, you know that you're going to get a paycheck. Entrepreneurship is completely different. And I am a true believer that entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it is not for the faint of heart? That's all I can say.
Dr. Kimberly, and here is how I like to explain this to people. Do you know there are people in McDonald's who work in McDonald's, right? Flipping burgers, and they're absolutely happy with the job they have, which is fine.
Yeah.
But there are people who have that nudge for more, right? So, like you said, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And the goal is not to push everyone into entrepreneurship. Is it going to be challenging? Yes. But is it going to be worth it? Yes. Absolutely yes. Right now, I'm so blessed that I wake up in the morning and I tell God, if today is my last day, I'm going to leave the earth fulfilled. I am so
Wow.
fulfilled in my work, in what I do.
Wow.
When I'm asleep, I cannot wait to come back into my office to work.
It's
That's
crazy.
life. I'm like it's almost like I'm on some kind of drug or something, but I don't take drugs, right? So
Yes, right.
that's the beauty of taking the leap, believing in yourself, going all in. So I never had a plan B. I never said, if this doesn't work, I'm going to take a job. No, I went in and I said, I'm going to figure this out. That's the mindset that almost guarantees success.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you so much for that, Joyce. Before we go any deeper, let me just pause right here, because if this conversation feels personal, it truly is not by accident. And we'll be right back. Just give us one moment. Before we get into today's episode, let me share something with you that I use personally in my business. Today's episode is sponsored by Go High Level. And yes, I am a proud affiliate because I don't recommend anything that I don't use myself. If you're a coach, consultant, service based entrepreneur who's tired of juggling five, six, seven different platforms to try to efficiently run your business, then Go High Level is for you. Go High Level helps you centralize your systems, CRMs, emails, text messaging, calls, calendars, webinars, even automation, all in one place. For me, time freedom is non negotiable. Legacy doesn't require burnout. And Go High Level helps me build a business that works with my life and not against it. If you want to explore it for yourself, you can learn more by using the affiliate link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the elevation. Okay, so Joy. So many women actually listen to this podcast for inspiration sometimes. I've heard inspiration, I've heard transition, I've heard pivoting, all of the things, right? So many of these women tie their true self-worth to the title that they hold. Um, and as you move from the corporate space structures and how things work, personally, tell me how did your identity begin to shift in that? Because of course, as I stated earlier, most of us tie our self-worth to what we do. When you're at a dinner party or you're at a mixer or something like that, and you introduce yourself or someone introduces themselves to you, that's the first thing that they do. So that shows that it's directly tied to who we are, who we present to the world. How did your identity shift moving out of the corporate space?
Yes, I had to go through that identity shift, and I call this an identity crisis. So, at first, we're going to experience an identity crisis, which is absolutely fine. It's going to be for a period of time. But we have to assume that identity in order to create the results we want.
Yes.
So, when I left corporate, I boldly changed my LinkedIn profile to announce to everyone that I'm now a business owner. And here's the surprising thing that happened. My boss from my bank, I was at TD Bank, actually subscribed to my newsletter. So I launched a newsletter for my business and my boss subscribed. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like that completely blew me away. I'm like, I can do this. And so that identity shift has to happen before we create success. And it will be difficult at the beginning to shift from, let's say, chief marketing officer at Barclays Bank or JP Morgan Chase, right?
Yeah.
We have these big titles, and then we launch our businesses and we become founder or consultant. That shift has to happen, and we have to own that shift boldly and confidently. And it's that boldness and confidence that actually attracts the business, the clients that we desire.
Yes.
So after the identity crisis for a couple of months or longer, then comes the confidence to own your identity and proudly introduce yourself as your new title.
Right, right. You are 100% correct because we do not get what we think we deserve. We get what or who we are in that moment. So until that identity shift happens, your brain is almost at a tug of war because this is who you think you are. This is who you're showing up as. And usually if they're not aligned, then there's conflict, there's struggle. So you're absolutely correct. You really have to shift in to, and not the person that you come in to the thing as. You have to shift into the version of you at the height of your success. Because if you come in, right, your initial shift is to the lower version of yourself, you will continue to operate as that. right? So you have to expand your mind to say, I am successful. I am a successful business owner who makes an income, who that sustains the lifestyle that I've grown accustomed to, that I am able to do all of the things, tithe and do all of the things that I love to do and sustain. And so you do have to shift into that. You, right? I 100% agree with that. Wow. So your mission now is really helping women to elevate their income while they do what they love, right? So, what's the biggest misconception that women have about making money outside of corporate space?
Oh gosh, the in my experience, the biggest misconception is that they aren't worthy of making the amount of money that they desire to make. That worthiness piece. So
Wow.
thinking about leaving corporate, let's say the amazing human being is earning, let's say $250,000,
Right.
and now they're launching their own business. Somehow, even though in a 9 to 5 job they earn an amount of money, when it comes to them generating the money themselves and owning that piece, they struggle with the worthiness. So that's the biggest challenge I see in women I work with. And when we fix that worthiness space, and when they see that they, regardless of the dollar amount, whether it's $500,000, $1 million, regardless of your goal, you are worthy to attract that amount of money and retain that amount of money. So the biggest challenge I see is worthiness.
Yes, that you are so correct. Worthiness and your self-image, self-worth, and the self is probably the biggest stumbling block as well as the biggest catapult I have ever seen in working with clients. It can either keep you stagnated and stuck at start, or it can catapult you into a life and business and ideas that you never even knew was possible, all in what you feel about yourself and what you feel you're worthy of obtaining too. So yeah.
Wow.
So Joy, for the women listening who see who feels like the call that they have on their lives is more than where they are right now, right? They know that they have this call, but they don't really know where they need to start. Okay. What would you say to her right now?
I'm gonna say you are in the right place. So if the calling feels bigger than where you are, it means you're on the right path. And the first thing I'm gonna tell you is to put your dreams and your goals in the palm of God. Okay? So think about this. If you read the Bible, I'm a person of faith. When God called people, right, they always felt inadequate, right? They always felt like, I think it was Moses that said, "Why me? Use my brother. My
I mean,
brother
he's
is
good.
more.
He can do this.
He speak better,
Why
right? He
me?
doesn't stutter. Why me? Choose Aaron." But
Yeah.
God said, Moses, I have chosen you. And God equipped Moses with everything he needed to succeed. And Moses is just one of the examples. There are many examples in the Bible that when God called people, like Gideon, when God called Gideon, he always will equip us with what we need. So if we start from that as the foundation, everything else works faster. So
Okay.
once you know that your dreams, your goals, your desires are in the hands of God, and the Bible tells us that it is God's desire for us to be very successful, to
Mhm.
prosper. That's
It
what the
is.
Bible says.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, so once we
That's a
put,
totally different conversation, Joy, that we're gonna have to come back on and have because people get prosperity almost like it's the plague. No,
mm,
he desires for you to have more. He gets no glory from you going backwards. There's no
I
glory
have
in
been
that.
both. Like I
Right.
grew up in abject poverty, and my father still believes that being poor means you are like you're closer to God. Like that's not true.
No.
The Bible says, "Brethren, I wish above all things that thou be in health and prosper."
Yeah.
So that's God's desire, and there is no glory when we are poor to God, like, but when
Good.
we have means, we can do great things. We can
Exactly.
invest in
Yeah.
ministry, we can invest in
Oh,
communities, so
yes.
anyway, so that's a conversation for
We're
another
gonna
day.
have a different conversation about that. So you guys stay tuned because Joy will be back. We're gonna have those. We're gonna have the prosperity conversation because she and I are aligned on that. He does not get the glory from you struggling, and the struggle bus is overcrowded. Let's get off of it. Let's get off of that. Jeez. Okay, I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt, honey.
that's
That's a
okay.
soapbox of itself on my own. So I am so sorry to interrupt you. So I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
No, yeah, no need to be sorry. I'm so glad you interrupted. So I was gonna say that once we have that as the foundation, every other thing falls into place. And here's the thing, and I teach this to my clients, but now I know it came from the Bible.
Mhm.
We have to believe without evidence. We have to believe
Faith.
in the possibility of success before we see the actual evidence. And that belief is what propels us to take the action required to get to the success. So after you've made that foundation and you put your dreams in the hands of God, you need to start taking action as though the success already happened. So tying into what you said earlier, that we need to become the higher version of ourselves. And I know it's going to be a struggle for a number of people to picture what that successful version of themselves are. And that's where the work is, right? Because we say, oh, appear or take action from your higher self. But where is my higher self? Because I've never been there. Your brain cannot fathom what the higher self is. And that's the work. You have to figure out the successful woman that earns $500,000 per year. What time does she wake up? What does she eat? Who does she surround herself with? You have to get crystal clear in your mind's eye who she is. And when you become crystal clear, then ask yourself, what action does she take every day? How does she show up? How does she speak? Who does she surround herself with? Who is in her network? Begin to act like her, and that's how you get the results.
Yes, and so I'm gonna give you guys. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm crazy by any means, but my higher self's names is Apricot, right? Okay, so she's
Mine is
Apricot.
Naomi.
Damn, come on, girl. So you know what I mean when I say that. So she's apricot. And what apricot is she is the highest version of herself. She is, while I have not gotten to the what I feel is the epitome of who I am destined to be, apricot has. And I see everything through her eyes. So
Mm,
even when I get dressed in the morning, I work from home. I've been at home for years now. I get dressed every single morning. Every
mm,
single morning, I get dressed like I'm going to corporate, or I'm going because I want to show up as
mm,
Apricot. Apricot is who I aspire to be, and she's just the highest version of Kimberly. That's who she is. So that's one thing that for women coming in trying to figure out, where do I start?
mm,
Imagine, again, like you said, in your mind's eye, the absolute highest version of yourself. Where do you live? What do you
mm.
drive? What type of makeup? I even, what type of makeup do you wear?
Wow.
Who does your hair? Like everything. What does your vacation looks like? What do your, you're hanging out with your sorority sisters, or your whatever. What does that look like for you?
Mm.
And
Wow.
go. And that's who you aspire to be. So you don't have to. God gave us this wonderful thing called the imagination,
Mm.
right? And so
Mm.
imagination gets us, or allows us, grants us the ability to do something that we've never experienced,
Mm.
and it become real. Because every single thing that we look at around us, a television was someone's imagination.
Mm.
We have TVs everywhere now. It was someone's thought, someone's imagination. Imagine if I could pipe, a signal from the East Coast to the West Coast and someone be able to see it.
Mm.
No one had ever done it, but it was the imagination allowed them to think of that. And look, it's a reality. So I am a firm believer that everything that you put into your mind's eye comes into your hand. It becomes tangible at some point. So why not think of the best version of yourself? Because listen, Apricot flies private. She doesn't even go to the airport. Come on, like she doesn't even go to the airport. Her driver pulls up on the side of the plane. She gets out and
Mm.
she walks up the stairs with her two phones in hand
Mm.
and hey, and an iPad and my purse. That's all she does. She doesn't even touch her luggage because why should she? She's the epitome of that success. So yeah, so okay, so Joy, before we actually close, I want you to tell the listeners how they can actually stay connected with you and take the next step.
Oh my gosh. I just love what you just said. And what you described, if I answer the question, what you just described reminded me of Myron Golden. That's his
Yes,
life.
love
Myron
him.
Golden,
Oh my God.
I
Love him.
describe it. And I love him so much. He's living his best life. And what you just described about imagination is so powerful because the mind cannot tell the difference between reality
Does
and
not.
fiction. Like when I found that out in neuroscience, it blew my mind off. And so we can reprogram our brains and our minds to the future we want. We can actually reprogram our minds and then we'll create the reality. And so I am so blown away. And the example you gave about dressing up,
Mhm.
when you said that, the question in my mind was, did you know there's a difference between how we show up? Because I work from home as well. So if I was in my pajamas and I'm trying to do my work, there's a way I work differently. But when
Right.
I'm dressed and I
Mhm.
show up, I do different things. Like it's just the most amazing thing. So thank you for all those nuggets you just shared.
Thank you.
And yeah, so going back to your question, um, how people can reach me, I am very active on Instagram and LinkedIn. So people can send me a private DM. I love to connect with people, get to know their story, where they're at, their dreams, their aspirations, and then we can take the conversation from there.
Okay, okay. And Joy, I also know that you have a very special gift for the listeners today. If you could tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So I actually have two gifts, and I know one of them you already have access to. I'm going to send you the next one if anyone wants to take advantage of it. The first one is my 10K months blueprint for people who are starting their business. They might be asking how. I feel like 10K is a good place to start and then you can build. How do I get to 10K months fast? So that's the first free gift. And then the second one is what I call my fully booked formula. For people who want to be fully booked in their businesses, I have the exact formula that if you implement step by step, you're going to be fully booked in 3 months. So those are the two gifts I have.
Oh, wow. That is so generous of you. And of course, we're going to have all of that information in the show notes. So be sure to check out the show notes and everything. So for all of Joy's information, including her podcast, some additional resources, which she just gave you one of them, an extra one while we're here, and any offers that she have, they're actually, again, going to be available in the show notes just for you guys to check out. Now, before you rush into your next goal, certification, degree, anything, anything associated with what society has told you is necessary for you to succeed. I want you to sit with this question. If you weren't afraid of disappointing anyone, who would you allow yourself to become? I'm going to repeat that because I really want that to resonate in your spirit. If you weren't afraid of disappointing anyone, who would you allow yourself to become? If your career no longer excites you, the problem isn't your laziness, it's misalignment. And the call that you keep hearing, that nudge, that thing that keeps you awake at night, it's not random. It's an
Mm.
invitation to evolve. Joy, if you could just leave our listeners with some final thoughts on how they shift into not only the version of them that is overly successful, but also the version of them that enjoys every moment of what they do. Your final thoughts.
Oh, I just want to piggyback to what you said. I think it's so profound that if we weren't afraid to disappoint anyone, and I, I, I'm asking that of myself. As you were asking, I was asking that of myself. And in bracket, I put including myself because sometimes we are afraid of disappointing ourselves. So if I wasn't afraid of disappointing anyone, including myself, how would I show up? That's so powerful. And I just want to leave listeners with this thought that there is a reason why you have the nudge for more. I want to encourage you to answer that nudge and just trust that God has your back. Now, I'm not asking you to go quit your job tomorrow. There has to be a plan. And that's what Dr. Kimberly helps people with. So reach out to her and she can help you create a strategy and a plan so that you can start to live your best life. And I want you to love on yourself. That's the message I always have for women. Love on yourself because we can be so critical on ourselves. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we have all these nasty things we say to ourselves. I believe that if we do the inner work to fall in love with ourselves, we're going to show up differently. We're going to make a huge impact on the world that will transform our generations, many generations to come, because of the work we do on earth here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Again, dropping nuggets and gems of wisdom all the way until the end. Help me again to thank our wonderful guest, Joy Rowland. Again, all of her contact information will be in the show notes. So until next time, remember, you weren't born to blend in. You were born to break ceilings, break out of boxes, and break generational curses. Stay bold, stay brilliant, stay beyond elevated. Until next time, thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Well, beautiful, thank you for tuning in to She's Beyond Elevated with Dr. Kimberly Dunlap. If this episode spoke to your soul, share it with another woman ready to rise. Remember, elevation isn't a destination, it's a decision. Keep shining, keep walking in purpose, and I'll see you in the next episode.